What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Anthony Walker, and this is a very special edition of the Wrestling Matters podcast. I guess you could call it Wrestling Matters Podcast Extra. And it's like I say, it's a very special edition this time because on this show, on this episode, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be talking about a show that I was at in my hometown of Middlesbrough, which took place at Coulby Newham, April 19th at the Rainbow Leisure Centre. It is EPW Middlesbrough Mania, featuring stars like Johnny Moss, Doug Williams, Valkabious, and the list goes on and on and on. I was there, and it also had a cameo appearance by me. That's right, the man known as The Head, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Walker, your boy Anthony Walker, the host of the show, took part in the Royal Rumble, Battle Royal, whatever you want to call it. But it was a Battle Royal. I think that was to do some interval things. I think it was scheduled to be a Royal Rumble, but it ended up being a Battle Royal because of the interval when they had the backstage passes at the end of interval. I don't know why the promoter did that. To be honest, he should have done that at the end, but hey, it is what it is. And I think the scheduled Royal Rumble turned into a Battle Royal. And by the way, if you want to see these matches that I'm talking about, the links will be in the description on YouTube, on the YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling, AJW Wrestling Matters, youtube.com/AJW Wrestling Matters, let me get that right, and get yourself over there because the links will be in the description for the following matches. And be sure to subscribe to the channel that it's on, because the channel is Chris Diamond. His real name is Chris Colley. That is the promoter of EPW. That's the guy, the mastermind, the man whose brainchild it is, so to speak, EPW. And stay tuned later on as well. I'll be giving you some information on how and where you can actually be a part of EPW as well, if you're in the Middlesbrough area, or if you can get to the Middlesbrough area. But like I said, that'll be later on in the show. Right. So, we're going to start off with the first match that was on, the kickoff match, which was the Mask Destroyer versus Micky Finn. Now, a good way to kick off the show. Great match, back and forth match. Micky took control of the match earlier on, using his quickness and his pace and trying to outthink the Mask Destroyer. But the Mask Destroyer, turned it around and started to take control of the match, and pretty much took control of the match for most of the most of the bout, rather. But there was just one particular point in the match which I found very funny. Whether this was allowed or not, I don't know, but it happened nonetheless. Micky grabbed the Mask Destroyer on the outside. He got him on the outside. They were going at it on the outside, and it got to a point where he grabbed out of him, like if he was grabbing out of him for somebody to hit him, basically. But as he was grabbing out of him, he went round the ringside area, and every kid in the front row ended up chopping the Mask Destroyer. Making them feel a part of the show. Chopping the Mask Destroyer. He went round the whole ringside area to get everybody involved, and everybody was just chopping the Mask Destroyer, and it was hilarious. But yeah, they got back in the ring, and like I said, the Mask Destroyer took control of the match and dominated the match, antagonizing the crowd in the process and everything. And Micky eventually got back in control of the match and dived off the top rope rather, with a diving elbow, which led to a near fall, and then they got back up, a bit of catch-as-catch-can wrestling, so to speak, and which led to the Mask Destroyer getting him up on his shoulders like if he was going to give him a Death Valley driver. But the Mask Destroyer turned it into like I guess you could say like a diamond cutter move. I mean, Diamond Dallas Page used to do it. He used to get him up on the ropes, on his shoulders, like if he was going to give him a Death Valley driver or an attitude adjustment or whatever the heck you want to call it, or even a Samoan drop. And he swung it and got him into like a diamond cutter move or an RKO move and got the 1-2-3. I don't know what he calls his finishing move. I'll have to ask him. But he hit it on Micky and got the 1-2-3, and the Mask Destroyer got the win in the first bout. And like I said, good way to kick off the show. Which is what you always want. You always want a good match to start off. If you can get a great match, hell, it's a bonus, but it was a good match and a good way to kick off the show. And the next match after that, which kind of a personal, the next match after that was a match that I took interest in, quite frankly. I didn't really like, so to speak, which was at the end. It was Prince Ameen versus Rampage Brown, who I believe Rampage Brown was a heel before this match, and then he went to babyface mode and faced Prince Ameen. Beginning the match, I went to the bathroom. I was sat the merchandise stands next to the merchandise table where the music plays and everything, and Sharon and the boss's girlfriend and all that. I actually went to the bathroom break because Prince Ameen did nothing for the first 5 minutes of this match but run his mouth, so to speak. It wasn't that much. It was that much of a. It was quite quite a short match. It wasn't as long as the first match. He was just running his mouth off at the beginning, and Rampage came out, and they eventually got it on, and trying to distract the time a little bit. And Prince Ameen took his time getting in the ring once Rampage got out, and it was like he didn't want to fight the guy, and eventually he got into the ring, and like I said, it was a back and forth match. And then the only thing that happened in the match, from what I saw at least, was the end where Prince Ameen's manager got up on the apron trying to distract Rampage. Yeah, Rampage was distracted by her, and Prince Ameen tried to get in a cheap shot from behind, but Rampage saw it coming, and instead of Prince Ameen hitting Rampage, he actually full force nearly he whacked his manager, and his manager went on the floor, and that one mistake led to Prince Ameen's demise in the match, and Rampage got the 1, 2, 3. And after the match, Rampage cheering in the crowd, got his victory and everything. After the match, Prince Ameen got on the mic and blamed his manager for the loss, quite frankly, and saying it was her fault that he lost the match and whatnot. It was just him running his mouth off and trying to blame his loss on somebody else and not taking responsibility for himself. And then come to think of it, he treated his manager like garbage, basically, and grabbed out of his manager and picked her up and carried her to the back like a little rag doll. He was their father and all that, which I didn't find. I mean, storyline or not, whatever, I don't like the Prince. I think the Prince Ameen character is disrespectful. Yeah, I didn't like the way he treated his manager that night, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. And come to think of it, after that match as well, Prince Ameen got what he deserved. So that's all I'm saying on that. I digress. The next match after that, which was actually a funny match, to be honest with you, because it had a blooper in it, I'll get to that in a minute, which was for the EPW British title, Power Dragon versus Supermark. A great match. TLC, by the way, if I failed to mention that there. Yeah, the Power Dragon took control of the match early on with a vicious chair shot on Supermark. And to be honest with you, pretty much Power Dragon had control for most of the match, because it was like an underdog thing with Supermark, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, Supermark had his ways and his moments in the match as well. It was mainly, like I said, the match was mainly controlled by Power Dragon, because no matter how much momentum that Supermark could build, it seemed that Power Dragon was always one step ahead. And it got to a point they were beating each other up on the outside, and like I say, he ended up bringing ladders in to the match. Power Dragon, for most of the match, the Supermark couldn't get a break, and there was one point in the match that Power Dragon went to the top of the ladder rather, and hit a diving leg drop off the ladder, which I thought was impressive, onto Supermark, and I think got a near 4 out of it. And then Supermark got his attacking and everything, and this was kind of funny, to be honest with you, because the match was supposed to be EPW British title TLC match, 1-4, 1 submission, believe it was. And Power Dragon got up to the top rope, and how Ric Flair stands on the top rope and he grabs, and his opponent grabs him and flings him off the ropes all the time. Yeah, at that moment we always used to go to the top rope, and it never used to work. Supermark did it the same to Power Dragon, except put Power Dragon through the table, and apparently the bell rang, and apparently that was the end of the match. Although somebody forgot to tell the ring announcer it was 1 pinfall, 1 submission that ends the match. So I'm sitting at the merchandise stand thinking, oh my god, what the hell? And then that was one for the EPW blooper reel, so to speak. And it was pretty funny, but it was just so stupid. And I even spoke to Chris Hart about the promoter after the match as well, and he just said, "Oh, don't, please." It was just, no matter how much. If there's one thing I've learned, no matter how much a wrestling show you can put on or a show you can put on, you always have to have the one mistake in it. That was the highlight mistake of the match. And like I said, Supermark got control though from that mistake. The match restarted, and Supermark got control. And Supermark won the title by hitting the Power Dragon with a Daniel Bryan running knee. Yes, he used Daniel Bryan's running knee on the Power Dragon and got the 1, 2, 3 and became the new British champion. EPW British champion. And yeah, it was a good match, apart from that cock up. But and if you want to, like I say, if you want to see that match for yourself, the links are in the description if you're seeing this on YouTube. So yeah, make sure you check it out, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It was just stupid, but it was the highlight of the match. Well, one of the highlights of the match anyway. And yeah, but like I say, it was one for the EPW blooper reel, if they ever do make an EPW blooper reel. The next match was in my opinion, what should have been the main event, to be honest with you. It should have been the last match on the card, but it wasn't. It was the 4th match on the card, and it was a 3-way dance, elimination 3-way dance for the EPW World Championship, and it was contested by Johnny Moss versus Valkabious versus the champion, Doug Williams. At the start of the match, it was a 3-way. At the start of the match, Val and Johnny were trying to form a tag team, so to speak, and team up on Doug, get like an early advantage and get rid of Doug first and then work on each other, and, try to form on the lines, so to speak. But Doug was ready for them, and he ended up getting his blows and everything, but eventually they got the advantage, and like I said, they tried to work together, but it did not last long. Yeah, the fists were flying between the two, and they managed to get rid of Doug Williams, and Doug Williams threw Doug to the outside, and managed to get a one-on-one match with each other and see who the better man was. And they had a great back and forth one-on-one match for the time being, for the time that they had, and then Doug got back into it. I mean, Doug was trying to get back into the match while they were having that one-on-one confrontation, but it failed. But eventually Doug got back in, the boys went out, and then eventually Doug got back into the match and took control of the match and did some beautiful suplex moves on the two, and getting the advantage in that. And I think at one point as well, Johnny Moss as well, which was a highlight, got I think Doug came in, took out Val, took control of most of the match and came in and took out Val, leaving Doug and Johnny to go at it. Moss with which was a little highlight as well, Moss doing the Benoit suplexes. Moss was in control until Val came in. Moss was in control, and then I think it was one mistake during the match from trying to get out to the ring, and then I think there was just one mistake. I think Williams from what I saw, Williams did a suplex move on it, and Moss came in and took advantage of it and got the 1-2-3 and got rid of Val. It was a back and forth match, like I say. Benoit suplexes from Moss as well, which was a highlight for any Benoit fans there. And Moss was in control. He went to the top rope, but Valkabious came out and pushed Moss off the top rope and interfered in the match, basically costing Moss the match. And there was a bit of catch can stuff. Doug got a tombstone on Moss and got the 1-2-3 and was still your EPW World Champion. That was what ended the first half of the show, and it moved on from there basically to the second half. Which was Asylum versus Mark Anthony. Asylum was dominating most of the match early doors, and Asylum eventually got the win, but this match led into a 6-man tag because Asylum's crew came out, the Scottish Terriers came out and started pummeling on Mark Anthony, and then Mark Anthony's team, led by Weapon X, came out, and then it ended up breaking down, and it ended up being an 8-man tag team war, so to speak. Like the Scottish Terriers dominating most of the match, isolating Weapon X in the corner, tag after tag after tag, frequent tags, which is any smart tag team. If you watch tag team wrestling, that's a smart tag team fundamentals right there. Tags in and out, and there was nothing really Weapon X could do. There was nothing anyone could do. And then eventually Weapon X got the tag, and the Karate Kid came in, tried to get back into the match. They took control of the match, and then it ended up breaking down most of the match. There was moves after move after move, suplexes, drop kicks. The ref just totally lost control, and it led to one mistake by Mark Anthony's team, and Asylum got the pin, and the Scottish Terriers walked out victorious over the team led by Mark Anthony, featuring Weapon X, and it just went up from there, and that was it really. And so basically all I'm saying is at the end of that, the Asylum and the Scottish Terriers were one step ahead. Now to the Battle Royal, which I think was a Royal Rumble, was meant to be a Royal Rumble at least, and turned into a Battle Royal kind of thing, and everybody was involved in it, and I wasn't even meant to be there, to be on the card, to be honest with you. I never expected to be on the card. I never brought any gear or anything. I just came in my jeans, my NWO top and my overcoat and all that, and I was meant to do podcast business. But I got the boss, Chris, picking at me, and everybody was picking at me. Just go in, see what it's like, and see if you can get back into it again. And I eventually agreed to go in. I took the old EPW. I took the Battle Royal old school basically. I actually did pretty well, to be honest, and actually enjoyed it too. Went backstage. Everybody went out to the ring. I couldn't get in the ring at first, but then I eventually got in the ring, and like I say, you'll see it on YouTube for yourself. I'm in the NWO top, by the way. You'll see it for yourself on YouTube. The link, like I said, the links are in the description. It was just going in, and then it was just crazy stuff. I'm in the corner beating up Karate Kid, putting my foot on him and choke slamming him and chopping him and just beating him down and everything. And everybody was going out fast and everything, and I'm like, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know where my surroundings were and everything. And as you see, I can't remember who the other one was. You'll see it on the footage if you check it out. Like I said, the links are in the description. I'm in the corner, and Val and another wrestler who's in the Battle Royal as well started beating the tar out of me in the corner. I'm like working, trying to work on it. The next minute, he gets on the wrestler who's with Val beating on me up in the corner, and the next minute I'm working on him, throwing the punches, and he gets a shot in. And then the next minute I'm in the corner as the guy's beating on me in the corner, beating me down in the corner. Val comes over, and the next minute he starts kicking the shit out of me, and they both start beating, they're like double teaming me in the corner and everything, and it was just crazy stuff. And eventually got on to Valkabious, started beating him in the corner, chopping him in the corner, and headbutting him and punching him, and the next minute he just kicks me between the legs. Like I said, you'll see it on the footage, he just kicks me in the legs. I go, oh! You hear me shout and everything, and the next minute he goes to throw me over the top rope to throw me out, which eventually he did. But as you see, it was just a carving clusterfuck, which turned into something good, because I'm still recovering from getting kicked between the nuts, so to speak. Getting kicked in my jackpot. He goes to throw me out, and you can see it on the footage. My face just whacked the second rope. It was just a comical, clusterfuck way to go out, and then he eventually picks me up and then dumps me out, which led to the same three that were in the EPW World Title match: Johnny Moss, Valkabious, and Doug Williams. Above all else, Doug Williams came out victorious and won the Battle Royal, which ended the night, and which pretty much ended a good show, to be honest with you, because I actually enjoyed it. It's far different from what it used to be. Maybe back in the old EPW days, they used to do it in the Liberties in town, in my hometown. I used to go to the Liberties in town, and I spoke to this as well. I spoke to Sharon about this, the merchandise girl who happens to be the boss's girlfriend. And back then, it didn't feel like a wrestling company, and that was my argument I had with him back then, because it didn't feel like a wrestling company. Quite frankly, and I know he's probably going to listen to this, and he's probably going to hate me, but quite frankly, I didn't think he'd give the shit, to be honest. Now, with the setup and everything, the fact that he's on Twitter, the fact that they're on Facebook, the fact that they're on YouTube, like I say, links are in the description, and the fact that they've got their own website as well, which he's actually asked me to be involved in, and he's actually asked me to work on, which I've got no problem doing, but it depends what he wants me to do on the website, because at the end of the day, that's their website, and I don't want to fuck it up. So, above all else and that, I've got no problem working on the website, I just don't want to fuck it up. But above all that, it actually felt, and like I say, you'll see this on the footage, it felt like a wrestling company. The matches that were there, the crowd that were involved, the setup as well. You see the setup, it's beautifully done. It felt like a real wrestling, you were in a real wrestling arena, despite the fact that it was in a gym in Coulby Newham called the Rainbow Centre. But yeah, and it also felt as well, and like I say, I'm just telling it like it is, I'm just telling the truth. It actually felt like there was some semblance of the old DCW. And no, I'm not talking about the WWE regurgitated shit that WWE tried to produce. I'm talking about the old ECW, back in the way back in the day, the early 90s stuff. Time will tell if this lasts, and the only person who can do it is the man himself, Chris. If you're listening to this, the only person who can do it is yourself. Take it seriously. And there was one moment, and during the show as well, Chris sat behind the he sat behind the merchandise stand counting his money and everything, and I thought, if he promotes shows and does what he did that night, and promotes the shows and does all that good stuff as well, he could be counting his money for a long time, if you know what I mean. But like I say, hats off to you guys. I know I'm going to get stick for coming, because you still want me to come back, I know I'm going to come to every training session, and you're going to grill it into my face, and you're going to grill it into me, oh yeah, are you coming back, are you coming back, I'm not going to hear this non-stop. But you might get your wish, because like I say, I was very impressed what I saw Saturday, April 19th, and like I say, guys, long may it continue, and the only way is up. Will it last? Time will tell, but touch wood, it all works out for you, because if you put on shows like that, you're going to get people involved. You're going to get people noticing you and, wanting to be a part of it and wanting to be on the shows themselves and everything, and you're going to get recognised a lot, and you may even get some sponsors too, which is what you should be aiming for as well, because if you get the sponsors, you'll probably make a lot more money than you can make yourself. But like I said, Chris, I know you're listening to this, it's up to you. Like I did, at the end of the day, it's your company, nobody else's. But with that being said, if you want the information on the EPW, like I said, the links are in the description. The links to the matches are in the description as well. Go to epwwrestling.co.uk. That's the official website. Again, link in the description. Go to facebook.com/EPW American Wrestling. Again, link in the description, and go to Twitter at EPWWrestling1. Again, link in the description. And if you want to talk to the man himself, I believe it's him, go to at Chris Diamond. I believe it's that. I'll have to check. If that's wrong, I apologise. And like I said, the link, but don't worry about it, the link will be in the description anyway. And follow them on and follow that and EPW1 Wrestling on Twitter as well, if you're on Twitter. And stay tuned to further podcasts as well, because I'll be putting them guys over, because I'll be putting them over basically, because they, it's my local wrestling promotion now. And I'd like to help out in any way, shape or form I can behind the scenes, besides wrestling in the middle, wrestling there as well. I'd like to help out as well behind the scenes as much as I can. Because, like I said, I enjoyed myself Saturday. I had a lot of fun watching the matches and being involved and being at a wrestling show, because wrestling matters. Being at a wrestling show, it was just great, There's a great vibe, good turnout, very packed house, good show all around. A 10 times better show than what I saw at EPW the last show, with that Liberties in Town show where a boxer was supposed to turn up but didn't. But I won't go into that one. But Chris, you know where I'm going with that one if you're listening to this. I didn't like that show, and that was when I realised you weren't taking it seriously. But now, from what I saw on Saturday, hats off to you, because you're taking it seriously, and it wouldn't surprise me if your girlfriend was drilling it into your head as well, getting you to take it seriously also. But like I said, long may this continue for you, Chris. Long may EPW continue to do good things, do great things as well. And like I said, if you want me to be a part of it, besides the wrestling thing, besides wrestling on the shows and everything, but if you'd like me to be a part of it behind the scenes, I'm more than happy to do so. But I'm not going to force you. It's up to you. It's your company. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, epwwrestling.co.uk, EPW1 Wrestling on Twitter, and facebook.com/EPW American Wrestling as well. Give them a like, give them a follow. All the links to EPW will be in the description below. If you're seeing this on YouTube, make sure you get on YouTube and check it out as well. And yeah, that's about it from this edition of the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed listening to it. My name is Anthony Walker, better known to you in EPW as the Head. And until next time, guys, peace out. Listen out for episode 4 of the podcast coming Monday. April 28th. So until then, peace.